Welcome to Cybersecurity Growth, a show for aspiring and existing cybersecurity leaders. I am your co-host, Sean Valley, Managing Director and CISO of Cybersecurity Growth. I'm also a musician here on Twitch and elsewhere under the name Music by SV, but more on that later. Welcome to episode number 18, the 2024 Verizon Data Breach Investigation Report. And hello to my co-host, Garrett Gross. Hey, Garrett.
Hello, Sean. How are you?
I'm good. I almost couldn't get those words out, by the way. Data Breach Investigation Report. It was very difficult to get those 4 words out.
Say that 5 times fast. Well, you know, here in the industry, we just call it the DBIR.
The DBIR. Here we are. Today is the 2024 Verizon DBIR. For those of you who are have a scorecard at home, just want to make sure that you update your scores appropriately. This is our second week in a row doing a show. Doesn't usually happen that way. I was looking at our stats. We thus far have done 1 show in June. This is now the second. We did 1 show in May. Officially.
Officially, right.
I think we only had 1 in April. Like we're our goal isn't 1 a month, but somehow that's happening just because life happens. But here we are, 2 in June.
Life comes at you.
This is a big deal. We're going to break some records this month, I think is what's going to happen.
So excited.
All right.
We get that algorithm to start working for us.
Yes. Before we get started, I want to shout out some new followers over on Twitch. Since last week, we've had just a handful of new followers, so I want to say thank you to our new followers. Dookie Glock. Dookie actually followed us while we were doing our show last week, so thank you for that follow. YSF Sky, thank you. Junior London, thank you for the follow. Origin Technology, thank you for the follow. And a brand new one just came in. None user 921. None underscore user 921. There's no sketch in that name whatsoever.
No, not at all.
Thank you all for the follows. We've had 8 new follows over on YouTube land, so thank you, YouTube. And I see a handful of folks have been downloading the podcast. Love you all. Thank you for the support. Appreciate you.
Very cool.
Our show, just to give everyone a little bit of a rundown how we run the show here, we have a few segments here. So here's a little bit of an agenda. We have the Nerd Zone, which is where both Garrett and myself bring a little bit of news to you, things we think that are really interesting for our audience here. So we'll start off with that. And then we'll get into our hot topic of the day. Our hot topic, as we mentioned, is the 2024 Verizon DBIR. So we're going to spend most of our time today on the DBIR. I don't know what feels right or wrong, DBIR or Data Breach Investigations Report. Neither of them work. Well,
DBIR just makes me think of the thing that I have to do every time I ride my mountain bike through grass, and I have to DBIR all those things off my socks.
Oh yeah. Yes. Rest of the agenda, we'll have a little section later on called Let's Be Humans, where we talk about things that are interesting to us that might not be cybersecurity related, and then we'll wrap things up. So there's our plan for the day. But before we dive into our agenda, we like to start every episode asking ourselves a question. The question is, who are you wearing today? And Garrett, I'm going to pass this to you to get us started. Garrett, could you please tell everyone, myself and everyone at home, who are you wearing today, Garrett?
Okay, so and you know, to better accommodate our podcast listeners, I'll describe what I'm wearing too. So I'm wearing a green t-shirt with a beaver on the front that says "Not Another Damn Project." Damn, DAM. Of course, no cursing whatsoever. This is a t-shirt from a very special company called Tech Tools, who I was working for at the beginning of my career, and we, including myself, got acquired by SolarWinds, which everyone now knows the company SolarWinds.
Everybody does. Anyone who's listening to this show probably knows SolarWinds.
I mean, they kind of made a name for themselves, and we'll get into that here in a minute also, by the way. But yeah, this is a shirt that really brings up a lot of good memories for me. This was working with a very small, very special team that did some very special things. We got acquired by SolarWinds and ended up moving us all down to Austin. So it was a very special time in my life, and what a funny shirt to wear as well, because it just evokes kind of a sense of whimsy and
the beaver is like, it looks like a red, like a fire truck red with like some orange markings on it.
Yeah, it's like Space Beaver,
Yeah, that's good.
Beaver from Hell or something like that.
That's
I
good.
don't know. But
I love it.
that was all of us, just crafty little beavers, just chewing away at various projects that we won't go into.
Nice, nice.
So, Sean, I'll turn it back on you. What are you wearing today?
Well, today I'm wearing a t-shirt that is just kind of a grayish color, and it says the words Black Hat on it. Black Hat. Everybody should know Black Hat, right? The preeminent cybersecurity conference.
That movie with Chris Helmsworth? Oh, no, sorry.
Yes,
Sorry.
that's that would have been great if I actually had the Black Hat the movie t-shirt on right now. Black Hat conference in Las Vegas. I mean, there's a bunch of Black Hats all over the world, but the large one is in Las Vegas in the extreme heat of August, 100 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit usually when we're there. And, it's really a 2-day conference, but it's really kind of a week and a half to 2 week long event, depending on how long you go there. Lots of cybersecurity folks, lots of hacker folks there. It really started many years ago with people who went and tried to show off interesting, cool things. They figured out how to make things do things that weren't intended to be done.
Well, and we like to affectionately call that week Hacker Summer Camp because it's a time for a lot of us. I've been going to DEF CON ever since I was a junior hacker way back in the day. And it's kind of expanded into Black Hat and then B-Sides. But now there's, the Diana Initiative and QueerCon and FurCon and like all these other cons. Blanket Fort Con is a thing, if you know, that encompasses this entire week of hacking in various areas.
And it's true because the suits show up for these events, the kids show up for these events. It's got everything in between. It's great.
It's become a little bit more of a kind of a place to be seen now, which I'm kind of for and against as well, because it does bring a lot of personalities, but there's a lot of just folks that want to be seen there these days, which is interesting.
Yeah, this is my only Black Hat t-shirt that actually has Black Hat. I have other pieces of clothing that have the words Black Hat on it, and I'll bring those out another time, but this is my only actual t-shirt that is Black Hat.
Very nice.
There we go.
Wrestling singlet with Black Hat on it, don't you?
Yeah, I actually think I got this maybe the last time I was at Black Hat or a couple times back. It was the last day where I go and look in the little Black Hat store, the little the little pop-up clothing store. It was like on clearance for a couple bucks because most of the clothing I wear on this show I generally is free. And I don't like to pay money for my clothing, so this might be the most expensive outfit I have ever worn on our show.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed. Looks nice.
Well, let's get into the Nerd Zone. Let's start things off with the Nerd Zone. Garrett, it looks like you brought a couple topics that we haven't discussed ahead of time. I brought a couple topics that we haven't discussed ahead of time. I'll get us started,
Please.
And then I'm going to pass over to you, Garrett. First of all, if you think about what time of the month it is, Microsoft patches. Right? Ladies and gentlemen,
yes.
Microsoft Patch Tuesday just occurred this week. There were a whole slew of patches, but I would say as far as things go from a Microsoft Patch Tuesday, relatively quiet Microsoft Patch Tuesday. But a couple things to keep in mind if you haven't... Well, do you have something on this?
I was saying no, except for one that you're about to go into.
There's one thing that popped up, right? One critical vulnerability that popped up. From what I've read about, it's in Microsoft's message queue service, potentially impacting port 1801. So that's something you might want to keep in mind. This port 1801, which is where this vulnerability hits, it's a port that you probably shouldn't have accessible for incoming traffic into your environment. So as you're, deciding, do I hit the Windows Update button on your servers and your desktops, might be worth going to take a peek at your firewalls and seeing, am I allowing 1801 in or out? And if I am, do I know why? Right? Maybe you have a business reason for it, but 1801 is usually one of those you don't want to have publicly exposed, allowing things in. And this vulnerability kind of works in that area. You may also not know, do I use Microsoft Message Queue service, the MQ service for Microsoft? A lot of software uses that. A lot of software that's connected to other software is using the Microsoft Message service. So you may not even know where you are or aren't using it. So it's a good reason to patch it. There are a handful of other smaller vulnerabilities in Microsoft's patching this month. But I would say as far as patching goes, stick with your regular cadence, however you normally do your patching. I hope you have a regular cadence for patching. Stick with your regular cadence. You don't need to, cancel your weekend plans to patch. Just, keep your patching as you normally would be my recommendation. Don't ignore this one because you do have the one critical. And go take a peek at port 1801 while you're there.
And that's a service that facilitates a lot of integrations with other tools. Is that correct?
That. If you think about messaging, it's often, forget about the end user type of messaging. It's where like two pieces of software need to talk to each other somehow, communicate with one another. So that's oftentimes where the messaging service is, where one piece of software is looking for a message from another piece of software. And that's how they communicate and interact with one another behind the scenes, outside of the view of the user many times.
One, it's something that we talk about often, and if I was a gambling man, which I am, I would guess that we're going to talk about the interconnectedness of applications as providing a lot of threat vectors when we dig into the data breach investigations report.
Oh, very interesting. Very interesting. All right, Garrett, over to you. What do you got for some Nerd Zone today?
Man, something that's really just kind of irritating from a personal standpoint. Rockstar Games, who of course makes the very popular Grand Theft Auto series and the ever-present Grand Theft Auto Online game, they identified a new vulnerability in a long string of vulnerabilities. This time, it's our favorite, the remote code execution. This vulnerability allows users to not only connect to you and mess up your game stats, however important that is to you, but from a much more concerning perspective, allows them to access your personal machine and peruse files, launch applications. And if anyone out there understands remote code execution, tactics, you can pretty much do anything at that point. So that's nothing new or damning, like, oh, there's an RCE out there. The problem is this is a huge company. And much like what we talked about before, this is a huge company with a lot of resources who could have been proactively fixing this stuff. Like, this is not a new piece of technology that they introduced and found an RCE in. This is something that's apparently been in the game for a while, and they've just either neglected to fix it or neglected to pen test their own solution to figure out that it exists. So just another long string of companies that are, not investing in security at the clip that I'd like them to.
Yeah, not investing in that software security space where they're, keeping their applications current and finding weaknesses and addressing them. Do you know where? So it's Rockstar. Is this in GTA specifically, or is it in across several products? And do we know like which? Because GTA is on every platform. You name the platform. Yes. Is there a sense of which platforms that this is on?
Most of these remote code execution vulnerabilities affect the PC users, which unfortunately are also kind of the neglected population, because I think Rockstar makes more money in the console type, business line of business. But yeah, this is something that is specifically going to affect the PC users, because again, like, if someone owns your PlayStation, like, yeah, that sucks, but still, like, what's that going to do? Someone owns your PC, that is a pivot point to all of your sensitive information, depending on how fastidious you are about segmenting out, stuff like that.
Yeah, good one.
Me personally, if I game, I'm on a system that is for gaming and gaming alone. There is no personal stuff. I don't look at banking. I don't look at, personal stuff like that. I mean, you might find my, folder of cat pics or something like that, which would be troubling to some, but, that's about the worst it's going to get.
Good to know. All right, I have one more vulnerability, some vulnerability news to share on my side.
Okay.
Veeam, if you know Veeam, or if you don't know Veeam, popular backup and recovery piece of software. They have a SaaS version as well as an on-prem version. Over this past week, there have been multiple Veeam vulnerabilities announced. They were announced in different days. So Veeam found a vulnerability. They announced it a few days ago. They saw another vulnerability midweek, and they announced it again. So I'm just trying to bring us to your attention. I didn't really dig into the details of them, but if you are at a location that uses Veeam for backup and recovery for your corporate infrastructure or anything else, just go take a peek at Veeam's security advisory that came out and see where you need to patch. It's in a couple different product areas, so it may or may not impact your Veeam product usage, but go take a look at their advisory and see if and where you need to patch.
Well, and the nasty thing about that is, backup poisoning. So if you're, somehow compromising an organization's backups, you could hit them with like a low level. It's a common tactic. Hit them with a low level exploit, get them to recover from a backup, and then boom, you've now got them not only thinking that they've restored from a clean image, but you've now possibly introduced a persistence mechanism allowing you to get in and stay in even if they try to kick you out.
And so here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Garrett Gross always making us more afraid of existing than we were a minute earlier. Thank you, Garrett.
You're welcome.
Garrett, what else you got?
Speaking about troubling news, I don't know if this is new news to everyone, but this is certainly new news to me. A Microsoft security researcher, who I will not name, but a very, very famous name, came out to actually say that he knew about and warned Microsoft about the flaw that enabled the SolarWinds hack. Microsoft decided not to acknowledge this because they had a multi-billion-dollar deal in the works with the United States Department of Defense. Or I don't know if that was the defense or the greater U.S. government, but they had a very large deal in play, one that would absolutely have made them or broken them. And they decided not to acknowledge this for fear that it might disrupt that. It might stymie their, journey to cloud dominance and whatever, which by the way, they never attained. Just thought I'd put that out there. But even from a worse perspective, like this guy ended up quitting over this whole thing because he dimed it out. They refused to fix it. And then, several months later, Bob's your uncle, it resulted in the SolarWinds hack. It was very troubling.
Unbelievable. Not unbelievable. Not unbelievable.
Well,
It's probably less believable if it were to happen today than 3-4 years ago, because we've now seen the fallout of SolarWinds.
That's right.
How it impacted their direct customer base, their customers' base, how it impacted I won't say how it truly impacted the company from a stock or value perspective, because the company bounced back and, folks are still using SolarWinds, but it impacted people at the company. People had left the company because of this and were forced out of the company because of this. And now there's people, dealing with, litigation. Their VP of InfoSec, their CISO, is dealing with litigation right now because of this. You just think about something as simple as, we should acknowledge this thoughtful researcher. Maybe we shouldn't because it's going to mess with a contract that we're working on. And you just look at the years, multi-year long fallout that still continues at SolarWinds.
Well, and if you're not concerned with just the greater good, because SolarWinds was everywhere. Everyone had SolarWinds. It resulted in, again, I'm just kind of speaking in very vague context here because I'm not an expert on this particular subject, but I believe it resulted in the stealing of nuclear stockpile information. So where we store our nuclear weapons and how we do that and things of that nature. So this not only resulted in just a catastrophic event to a lot of organizations, including SolarWinds themselves, but also resulted in the potential leakage of state secrets, which, in the kind of contemporary, what we're thinking about today, that's kind of worrying, worrisome.
It is.
As everyone seems to be parking their submarines next to each other these days.
Next to each other, yes. Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have any more that you nerd zones you want to hit on today? I'm going to save mine for next time. Okay, great.
No, that's it. That's it.
A lot of news this week. A lot of little bits of news this week. We're going to move on and get into our hot topic of the week. Our hot topic of the week, we are going to dive into something known as the 2024 Verizon Data Breach Investigations Report, also known as the DBIR, the Verizon DBIR. We're going to introduce you to what this thing is. We're going to dig into it. So welcome, everybody, for this ride as we get into it. So the Verizon DBIR is a report, as you could guess by the name. It's put together by the company Verizon, and it's focused around data breach investigations that are conducted in a calendar year, basically the previous calendar year. I believe this year's report was conducted between a range of October 2022 to say October 2023. People gathered, analysts gathered lots of data. A small set of analysts. There's only about 4 people who actually work on this project, like primary people who work on this project. They work with customers of Verizon. They work with people who aren't customers of Verizon who are willing to share data and learn basically data breach information about cybersecurity incidents that impacted organizations, not necessarily individuals or consumers, but have impacted organizations. Verizon has been doing this for 17 years. If you have never read the Verizon DBIR before, it's an amazing read. It's 100 pages long, too. Keep that in mind. It's not a short read.
But I will say that if you're daunted by that, which you shouldn't be, it's actually a pretty interesting read. They always release an executive summary that goes over a lot of the hot topics and kind of it might even entice you to read the entire report. But even just reading the the executive summary, it's to your advantage to have that information.
And for those of you who are still like, I'm not sold if I want to read it, they actually pepper humor throughout the report as well. And I do appreciate the very serious topic that's in there with some lightheartedness in there, which kind of reminds me of maybe this show right here. The purpose of this report is provide a comprehensive analysis of data breaches and cybersecurity incidents worldwide. So don't think that this is just the Verizon in your local area, in your region. This is a global thing.
That's right.
The scope, it's based on over 90,000 incidents and 5,000 confirmed data breaches. So this is not an organization that, asked their 2 buddies to help them fill out a report. This is a massive amount of data that's analyzed, a massive amount of breaches. We just hit this again. 5,000 confirmed data breaches in that 1-year calendar span to help build the data here.
I've always been really impressed by that their ability to take so much data and kind of, provide a broad analysis. Because again, you survey, 10 people, you're not really getting an accurate sample, but 90,000 incidents. That's a lot of incidents.
So what we're going to do today is highlight some of the key things we saw when we read through the report, and just share some of the data and have a little conversation around it. First of all, I think one of the top things that are talked about in this report and that people want to know about are who are the bad guys? Who are the top threat actors that are causing problems? And you won't be surprised. There's two groupings of threat actors: the external threat actors and the internal threat actors. External being people outside of the organization trying to do harm, and then internal, people inside the organization. Maybe trying to do harm, but still doing harm, even if they aren't trying to in some cases. So
that's right.
Quick breakdown. External actors account for 85% of breaches, primarily driven by organized crime. Internal actors, possibly employees inside the organization, responsible for 15% of breaches, often due to misuse of privileges. So again, not necessarily internal people always trying to be bad actors inside, but maybe people who are overprivileged and say, oh, wait, what if I go here? Or what if I go there? Or what if I read this thing? Or what? Misuse of privileges. Overprivileged people.
A couple of clarifying questions here. So driven by organized crime, I would imagine that that's not only just criminal enterprise, but also state-sponsored actors that are external to that nation state or whatever. So I would imagine that also encompasses, some highly funded teams out there that are attacking.
Yeah, if you think, organized crime is not just a group of, a little mafia team of some sort, but it's, countries that are funding cybercrime groups, right? That we would define as cybercrime groups, right? For them, it might just be, this is just business as usual. This is how our country works. We go and steal intellectual property from other countries and bring it back to ours and commercialize stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we do it too, like all the time. I would also, interesting to point about the internal actors. This is a nod to what we discussed last show. A lot of times people are just trying to get their job done. And it's oftentimes your fault. And by I mean the folks that we're talking to that are in charge of IT and security, because you have over provision these users with permissions. And because they have this, and again, I'm not speaking out against this, but because they have this malleability, they're just trying to get their job done. They're trying to introduce new technologies to speed things up. And as we've seen, maybe introducing sensitive data into a generative AI prompt or something like that, that can be intercepted. That could be possibly misused against them. So not surprised. I find the split kind of lopsided, though. I would expect that the internal actors to be a little bit more, but it's refreshing that maybe some of our efforts in the security community are actually having an effect.
Yeah, maybe we are doing a little bit better job of protecting things on the inside. As you said that, it started to make me think of when we did a show on this before. You and I started doing the show together, focused on zero trust. But you and I have talked a lot about zero trust offline.
Right.
Makes me think: have we actually looked at the principles of zero trust? Because zero trust isn't a solution; it's a whole bunch of it's a philosophy, really.
It's a daily struggle.
It's a daily struggle. Have people actually started to implement those key pieces of, least privilege, network segmentation, a thoughtful approach to governing identities. So yeah, it is a lopsided number, 85.
Because few and far between are that disgruntled employee that's just like, I want to cause mayhem and wreck the shop that I work for. I mean, that certainly exists out there. But again, just to reiterate, these are usually just people trying to do their job, and they mess up.
Yeah, most people are trying to do their job, get a paycheck. Most people.
That's it.
Okay, what are the attack vectors? There's 3 primary attack vectors: social engineering, hacking, and malware. All right. So let's talk about these in order. Social engineering. The most common attack vector is in the social engineering area, especially phishing and pre-texting. Okay. The median time for users to fall for a phishing email is less than 60 seconds.
Doesn't surprise me.
Comes into your inbox. By the time we finish this sentence, someone's done something on that phishing email. That's how quick they come in.
Well, and usually those phishing messages, also smishing, vishing, contacting you over SMS or text, they act on a sense of urgency. It's like, hey, this is your CEO and I need this really important file right now. So that kind of acting on that is a very effective, let me just say, very effective tactic used in social engineering.
So I'm glad you brought that up. Pretexting is mentioned on 18 pages of the 100-page report, but it's never actually defined. And I actually don't hear a lot of people saying the word pretexting, so I want to help our audience learn. And so I grabbed a definition of pretexting. So pretexting is a form of social engineering which an attacker tries to convince a victim to give up valuable information or access to a service or system. The distinguishing feature of this kind of attack is that the scam artist comes up with a story or a pretext in order to fool the victim. The pretext generally casts the attacker in the role of someone in authority who has a right to access the information being sought, or who can use the information to help the victim. Think about this. It could be someone who's pretending to be a help desk person, right? Or someone who calls you up and says, "Hey, I'm Microsoft support. I know you have a virus on your system. Can we look at this together?" Right? These are pieces of the pretexting definition. And there are other thoughts. Garrett, thoughts on this?
Yeah, the pretext is just like you said. It's your backstory. It's your kind of your entry point. A lot of times, which is especially concerning for us that are trying to fight against this, is that the amount of information that people put out on the internet through social media and other forms allows for the developing of a pretext to be so much easier these days. Oftentimes it's again that CEO that's contacting you, but also as we saw in the Electronic Arts breach that happened 3 or 4 years ago, the pretext was they were contacting help desk as just a regular user saying, "Hey, I lost my phone. That's my 2FA device. I need you to create a token so that I can, gain entry to this product and bypass, the SMS 2FA basically." So again, this pretexting, this understanding of how your business operates, much more easy to gain insight to because of the information that's put out there on social media.
Yeah, you think about LinkedIn, right? We use LinkedIn as our public resume, right? You get a new job. What do you do? I'm not saying you specifically, but I'm saying just about all of us. What do you first do? You go and you update your LinkedIn, say your new job, or you get a promotion. You go to LinkedIn. You say my new job.
My favorite, and I will definitely not admit to have used this before, is when they show all their swag, including their new user badge that they got. That's my favorite. That's like, wow, you just You just did that. And just for anyone who knows, you can clone official looking documents just from a photograph. It's very, very easy to do so.
Yeah, people, I think about people update their LinkedIn, and so the bad actor, and this kind of goes back to the text-based phishing. You update your LinkedIn, bad actor sees all these updates of people who have said, I got a new job at a new company. They then go into their other tools, which have, information, data on each person, person's name, mailing address, phone number. There's paid services. There are companies out there that their business model is to gather information so people can pay for that information and use it. So a bad guy sees Joe Smith got a new job and a new title, and then they go to their data service, say, let me go find Joe Smith, let me find Joe Smith's cell number, and now let me go text Joe Smith under a spoofed cell number and pretend to be the CEO of the new company or the head of finance for the new company and say, hey, welcome to the company. Hey, I need your help. And there's, I think everybody who's seen this, who's listening to the show now, knows of people, if not themselves, who have received that fake text from the CEO that looks like it's legitimately from the CEO. And people say, how did they know my number? That's how.
One, a common one, and I'm not trying to give you anyone ideas, more like, prevent against this, is you start a new job, I find out about it, I'm going to contact you as HR and say, hey, you know what, we're missing your banking details. I need your routing number or things of that nature. Or the inverse, I can intercept those communications and I can tell your new HR, oh, hey, by the way, I messed up my account and routing information. Here's my actual banking information that you need. Now your paychecks, maybe the first couple are going to come to me instead of, your actual banking institution. And if anyone knows about wire transfers, unless you catch them within 3 to 6 hours, they're pretty hard to stop.
All right. The next attack vector, hacking, predominantly targeting web applications with stolen credentials being a major issue. I mean, we've heard this before.
Surprise there. Yeah. No surprise there.
And then the third attack vector, malware. Ransomware remains a significant threat, constituting 24% of malware breaches. I think malware might be down a little bit from years past, but still massive.
Well, I have a theory as to why it's not completely eradicated, is because that development of malware has been commoditized to where you don't have to know how to write code anymore. You can just go on I hate to use this word because it's so cliche, but the dark web, and you can go and buy ransomware. You can tell a threat actor group, hey, here's what I need it to do. Write me some malware. Boom. Done. Yeah. Like for a couple $100.
Cheap money.
Like
go on Fiverr.
Oh yeah.
Probably.
That's going to be my new Fiverr campaign, is I write ransomware for you.
On Fiverr. You can get one for 20, but you get a 5-pack for, 80.
That's right. And you need email distribution, just tack on an extra $10. I'm happy to help out.
Source code, $100. If you want the source code, it's an extra $100.
That's right.
That's the Fiverr model. I love it. Okay, some industry-specific insights. We're going to focus on 3 areas here: healthcare, financial services, and the public sector. Those are the 3 top areas that are struggling the most.
Healthcare has been hit hard lately. So we've seen 3 or 4 breaches associated with them.
They are continually heavily targeted. They have sensitive data. In a high rate of internal misuse. And if you think about healthcare, doctors need to run from, room to room, patient to patient. And you think about your hospital, your doctor's office, those Windows computers that are always unlocked. And so the healthcare space is a difficult one. It's not nearly as regulated as other areas. So there's something to that. And then also just the way that it operates, needing to move, quickly. It's a difficult market.
Couple of factors there: higher chance that they're going to pay the ransom, because this is dealing with people's lives, not just livelihoods. But because we have so much technology hooked into IoT and hospitals, there's a much higher proclivity that they're actually going to pay the ransom. And the second one, you talked about doctors. We'll just say I've worked tangential to some healthcare type things, and doctors are the worst offenders for, hey, I need admin access to everything, or I need you to put my personal iPad on the internal network. It's just a numbers game with healthcare, because like you said, they're not only kind of loosely regulated, but their bending of the rules seems to be a little bit more than others.
And if anybody wants to learn more, just go back to our show, episode number 16, to learn about the largest healthcare breach of the year thus far.
That's right.
The second industry, financial services, right? They face a lot of sophisticated attacks, and definitely a rise of credential theft and phishing.
Yep, just a very lucrative target there. I mean, the payout if you get that right is insurmountable compared to
It's
the other
interesting.
ones.
Financial services, one of the more regulated industries, and also one of the most secure. If I know of, I pay attention to a lot of the different sectors. Financial services is probably one of those areas that invests the most in cybersecurity,
That's
in
right.
technology and cybersecurity.
Absolutely.
But to your point, if you get it right, the payout's great for a bad guy.
That's right.
And then the public sector, government work, the .govs, the .mils, if you think about it, the local, state and town public sector areas that don't have deep pockets to fund their cybersecurity programs, so they're really vulnerable, and they get vulnerable to espionage, they get vulnerable to data theft, and often through poorly secured web applications, and again, social engineering. Back to our topic earlier.
I would guess that there's probably a lot of highly tenured folks working in the public sector that might be a little stuck in their ways, so maybe susceptible more to not adhering to the principle of least privilege. Might be a little bit more easier to find because they have such a large paper trail leading attackers to their front door.
Back when they'd have like a rolling rack of cognac in the office, cigarettes in the office, and maybe a calculator on the desk.
Last week. What are you talking about?
All right, so what are some of the trends and emerging threats? 3 of them that jump out on the report this year. The evolution of ransomware, supply chain attacks. We were talking about SolarWinds, which fell into that category, and zero-day exploits. Those are the 3 trends and emerging threats that came out in this year's report. First of all, in the evolution of ransomware, there's this increase in double extortion tactics where the attackers exfiltrate the data before encrypting it. So they steal your data before they encrypt it, and then they threaten to leak the information if you don't pay the ransom. And so it's idea of we're going to lock your computers. We're going to steal your data, first of all. Then we're going to lock your computer so you can't get your data. And then say, here's the dollar amount in Bitcoin you need to send to this, Bitcoin address. And if you don't send this in a certain amount of time, hours or days, we're going to leak your data. So we stole it first. We locked your copy. So we still have an unlocked copy that we can leak out. And if you don't pay us, we're going to leak it out. And again, who's to say, when you bargain with a bad guy, who's to say you don't pay them once and they don't still leak it?
I was just about to say that. I mean, remember, you're dealing with the criminal element here. We oftentimes see triple extortion to where they sell your data already. And then they tell you, they put it up on the black market, and then they tell you, oh, hey, pay us or we're going to leak it. It's like, well, they've already done that. So just remember, dealing with the criminal element probably wouldn't put a lot of credence into what they're telling you.
We didn't go into this in too much detail, but if you go back to episode number 16, the organization that we talk about in episode number 16 actually had the double event occur to them. They had a ransomware. Their data was stolen. Their data was encrypted. They had a ransomware request. They paid it, and the data still leaked.
That's right.
So, and I don't think, from what little I know, following the public information, I think the data leaked inadvertently. That a third party may have stolen it from the ransomware actor and then leaked it again.
That's another component that's often not discussed is the ransomware and criminal groups like fighting with each other to get, market share or street cred or whatever. Yeah, it's a messy game out there.
All right, second trend, supply chain attacks. It's growing concern as attackers are targeting third-party vendors to infiltrate larger organizations, highlighting the need for stringent supply chain security measures.
Absolutely. It's a lot easier to hack that third-party tool that a large corporation uses rather than attacking a large corporation. You add into that the fact that next to no one, I mean, maybe after a couple of incidents that we've seen, but not a lot of people are looking at that third-party risk. That's on a lot of people's radar, but that's not the norm these days.
There was a piece of software just a few weeks ago. I forget the name of it. open source software that's embedded in lots of commercial products where bad guys got into it and changed code in the open source stuff. And it was thanks to a single developer who...
Oh, it's the Python library.
Yeah, a single developer fired up
Yeah.
the product on his desktop and said, it's running slow. It never runs slow. And started troubleshooting it and then found code in there that should not have been in there. And it was malicious code. And he stopped, just because of this scenario, he stopped this attack from becoming a worldwide issue. But if we think about Log4j, like if you think about Log4j just from a few years ago, everybody now knows Log4j. If they didn't know the name 3 years ago, everybody knows it now. You get into the supply chain, you get into small pieces of software that are embedded throughout the world in other places, and you found a way in. You meant
that one that you're talking about. That was particularly elaborate because they had actually compromised the reputation system of this particular plugin, and they had used several identities to kind of add credence and oh, this is a great fork and we need to commit this and stuff like that. So it was a pretty highly coordinated attack. Those supply chain attacks are getting more and more elaborate by the day. It's
and those are impressive. When we learn more about them, that's when you realize these aren't generally sometimes they are, kids in their basement just that know how to computer a little bit well.
These
but
are professionals.
Some of these are very, very well coordinated. All right, the third trend is zero-day exploits. So there's a rise in zero-day vulnerabilities being exploited, emphasizing the need for proactive vulnerability management and patching strategies.
No comment.
What's new that we say about this? I mean, identify your assets. Find all the things that you are responsible for. Find where things are weak and vulnerable, and put together a plan to get those things patched. It's kind of I think those are the top 2-3 things that are in the CIS critical security controls.
Well, it boils down to have a plan, have an incident response strategy, tabletop and by tabletop I mean run simulations of your incident response plan. Just be prepared because this is going to happen. Yeah. And the only other thing that I'll say is there are, let's just say, organizations around the globe that hoard zero-day exploits for use in warfare. And the fact that they're not disseminating these at the clip that I think they should and helping kind of patch for the greater good, that's also contributing to a lot of these zero-day exploits.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Mitigation strategies is the next category in the report. 3 top mitigation strategies came out of this report. We've already talked about the trends, the trends and emerging threats. We've talked about the industries that are most hit, and we've talked about some of the key vectors. But from a mitigation strategy, 3 things: employee training.
Oh, yeah.
Multi-factor authentication. You're not wearing the shirt today, but you wore it last time we got together.
I have it tattooed on my chest at this point.
And incident response plans.
Boom. Exactly.
I love these 3 things because these are things I think this is what we do here. This is what we do on the show. This is what we do in our day jobs. This is what we do to help educate our friends, our family, our businesses. These are 3 of the big things.
These are also 3, let's call them free or extremely low cost things that you could do. This is not a tool that you have to go buy. You need a new password vault that encrypts with quantum encryption, in 17 languages, including Esperanto. These are very free, easy things that anyone can start doing today.
Yeah. Think about, let's go in order. Employee training, the importance of regular comprehensive training to recognize and respond to phishing and social engineering attacks. There are free tools out there, but there's many paid offerings. There's, it's like Cybersecurity, there's KnowBe4. We can go down a list of all these different tools that are, some are free, some are inexpensive, and then they get, it grows. But there's, if you have a LinkedIn Learning account, you have a vast array of security training built right into there as well.
I mean, before we even talk about buying phishing simulation and education tools, just have regular meetings with your users. All this requires is buy-in from the top, that this is important, that we need to spend time on it. I don't like to swear on things, but like that is one thing that I would stand by with the utmost confidence is that if you have regular training of what to do and what not to do when you think there's a phishing message, doing things like reinforcing with your employees that it's okay to report a false positive. I'd rather you report something that's not a phishing attack than not report something that is a phishing attack. That is a very free thing that I use free in air quotes because employee time is not free, but that is something that you can start doing today with knowledge resources that you have for free online.
Yeah, a couple things, real world things you can do with no extra money. If you use Slack or Teams, create a channel, make it public to the company, to your organization, and use that channel to share tips and tricks, cybersecurity tips and tricks, and use it regularly. Encourage people to join the channel and just passively read the messages that are there, or in other folks who have some good ideas, encourage them to share news there as well. Thoughts of, hey, here's a good way to to set your password. Here's what a phishing email might look like, and here's how you can report something if you have questions. Just using your own chat tool that you use internally. Maybe start scheduling like a monthly lunch and learn and bring in all different types of topics. 1 month, say, we're going to show you how to secure Facebook.
I thought you were about to say bring in all sorts of tacos. I'm like, yes, that is it.
Bring in all
the tacos.
All tacos and all topics. Oh, that would be a good name for your lunch and learn. Tacos and topics.
Tacos and topics. Boom.
But again, free. All you just need is a Zoom, meeting, a Teams meeting, or a conference room, whatever, is how you guys operate, and invite people to come join.
And again, I can't stress enough, reiterate to your user population that it's okay to report something that's a false positive. Like anyone can report these issues. It doesn't need to be a member of the security team. Yep.
All right. Next mitigation strategy. MFA, multi-factor authentication. Strong recommendation, implement MFA, protect against credential theft and unauthorized access. That's what's in the report.
That's right.
If you have any questions about MFA, you can go back to episode 17, episode 16, episode 15.
MFA. And like that is also a free thing because most of the time your secondary or tertiary authentication device is a mobile phone. It's your email. It's long gone are those little token things we talked about, the little RSA
footballs, whatever they were. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, again, MFA, and you know what? Here's the thing. If you're using a tool that does not offer MFA in their basic subscription, but only offers that in their pro subscription, stop using that tool because that is I was about to say a bad word. That is a really non-ethical corporation if they're hoarding that, functionality.
Charging
that's
you
not
for identity security, right?
Right. That's ridiculous.
And again, MFA can be the free Google Authenticator. So many pieces of software will say, "Oh, you can use Google Authenticator for MFA." Great,
that
gets the job done. It's free.
Yeah, if you don't want to, that's a great point, Sean. If you don't want to use SMS, you have concerns about its security. Use a Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator. Mm-hmm. They're all free.
Okay, last mitigation strategy, incident response plans. And in the report here, it says the necessity of having a robust incident response plans in place to quickly and effectively respond to breaches and minimize damage.
I do a lot of incident response training, or I don't anymore, but I have in the past. And I cannot tell you how many times people will have a documented incident response plan and have never run a simulation of it. So when the incident hits, they're all, caught going, I don't know what to do. Run tabletops. It can be fun. Like it is a fun exercise. Again, bring tacos. Entice people to show up for these tabletops. And sorry for just hoarding this, but I just love this topic so much. Invite people that are external and adjacent to IT and security. This is not just an IT and exercise. Invite anyone who wants to show up. Now, there are some guardrails there. If you're not part of the IT and security team, you're in the please do not speak category. Maybe save your questions for after, but make that a very welcoming and open environment for everyone to collaborate.
So a couple things on this. The mitigation strategies, incident response plans, but our follow-on is we oftentimes see incident response plans as a compliance check mark at a lot of organizations. Create the plan, but try it out. Try it out, test it out, see where it works and where it doesn't work, and then make sure a couple people, again, maybe you have a team of 1, maybe you have a team of 100. I don't know what it is. Maybe you don't have a security team. Maybe it's just IT folks who are holding down the security role. Have somebody, know the plan relatively well, know where it is, test it out every once in a while. Hold these tabletop exercises, bring people into a room. I will say this, I've been a part of many tabletop exercises with many groups, and it's oftentimes the people who aren't the security team who leave the tabletop exercise saying, that was fun. I learned a lot, and it was entertaining as well. And we also learned, hey, we've got things to work on, and I'm okay with that. Like, this was very valuable.
I'll also throw a huge plug out there for Black Hills Information Security. I know I've talked about them before. They create a card-based tabletop game. It's an incident response game called Backdoors and Breaches. I've been fortunate enough to help develop one of their expansion decks. It is a very fun, very effective tool to kind of complement the tabletop exercise. It doesn't replace it, but it provides a really fun, engaging game that you can play with, anyone in your company that helps you kind of get into that mindset of incident response.
Nice. All right, so here's some notable stats from the report. 3 of them here. We're going to talk about the average cost of a data breach, the time to identify and contain a breach, and the impact of remote work, which has really taken over since COVID, or since March 2020, right? And
that's right.
Since on. Okay, so first,
not like we're counting or anything.
No, not at all. Average cost of a data breach. The estimated is $4.35 million US is the average cost of a data breach, with healthcare breaches costing significantly more. We talked about United Health Group in episode 16, costing them confirmed $900 million, and they were likely on the verge of $1 billion.
Wow.
So the average cost, $4.35 million. This is not little money.
That's a lot of double cheeseburgers, Sean.
So many.
Well, and think about it, like most companies cannot afford that. Like the majority of companies, I saw a stat years ago that like half of SMBs that are involved in breaches, they'll be gone in 6 months because they just can't sustain that cost. Also consider the tangential costs of loss of customer confidence, staff that leaves because this is such a traumatizing event.
You know what show is huge right now on Netflix? The Ashley Madison breach. There's a documentary on the Ashley Madison.
Ashley Madison, what's that?
I think the quote of their website is, "Life is short, have an affair."
Oh my. That was the big joke when we would talk about the Ashley Madison breach. I'd, ask the audience, what is that?
What is that? Life is short, have an affair. Yeah. I saw someone in my house was watching it yesterday. I'm like, oh, let's get into this. And they're like, how do you know it? I'm like, I kind of work in this space. They're like, is your name in there?
That was a hot topic. And talk about a sensitive data trove. Like those people absolutely did not want their information to be leaked.
No. Okay. Second notable statistic: time to identify and contain a breach. On average, it takes 212 days to identify and 75 days to contain a breach. So I've heard the number 200 days before. This is not new. It might be a little shorter, but in the 200s range is a common number that's existed for years. 212 days to identify a breach. And then the second number, I hate both of these, but the second one, 75 days to contain a breach. That means we found the bad guy doing bad things, and it took us 2.5 months to get our arms around it and take control of it.
Probably contributing to that is the lack of documentation on your assets, your SaaS applications, incident response processes. What I think is interesting, Sean, is if you marry that statistic with the stat that you shared earlier, that your average phishing attack takes 60 seconds to be successful. We're talking about an insane amount of time inside your environment, or colloquially inside your environment. But my God, that's more than enough time to do whatever you want and develop persistence to stay in.
Just think about, you think about the bad guy industry here. They craft something, user clicks on it within 60 seconds, boom, let them in. They're hanging out for the better part of a year, 2/3 of a year. They're hanging out in your data, in your space. and then you find them, and it still takes you 2.5 months to clear them out because you don't have the right tools or practices in place to figure it out. Crazy.
I mean, I'll just say that's more than enough time to do whatever you want to
whatever. Exactly. All right. Third notable statistic: impact of remote work. So an increased attack surface due to remote work arrangements necessitating enhanced security measures for remote access. Everybody listening to this on Earth experienced March 2020, where we all had to work from home. Most of us didn't work from home prior to that. Many of us still do work from home after that. And if you think about companies had to very much change how they operate, and truthfully, forevermore. To be able to have remote access, to no longer think that the office is where the network lives. The network is there is no network anymore. It's just not something to think about, because wherever everybody works, that's a different network and that you have no control over. So yeah, the impact of remote work, this makes sense. At the rapid speed of how we all became remote workers, that was much faster than any IT org or security org could plan out a thoughtful, remote, secure environment.
Well, because think about this, like your organization might extend some security controls to your, remote work environment, but are they bolstering the security on your partners or your children's devices or your home network? Kudos to folks like 1Password and other password managers that will give you a free family account when you have a corporate account, so you can use password vaults and stuff like that for your family members. But yeah, I see that as a huge soft tissue area that a lot of people overlook. Is your home network is laughably easy to compromise.
Right. And we no longer, IT professionals, security professionals, could no longer say, sorry, you can't work from home.
Correct.
March 2020 happened, and
that's right.
We're never going back. Right. I mean, people are starting to go back to the office, but remote work is never going away, because we were required to figure out how to make it work, and you don't put the genie back in the bottle. It just doesn't happen.
No.
Okay.
No. And few and far between the organizations that are saying we're full-time remote work. Most of the time it's, come in two or 3 days a week or something like that. Right. And again, like all it takes is a couple of days at home with that, weak security posture to be capitalized on, and
with your Linksys router, your 10-year end of life D-Link router, your kid using your iPad mini 1st gen.
Most internet subscriptions are through your cable provider, and cable providers are notorious for using the cheapest equipment available on the market. Yeah. So think about that.
All right, we're wrapping up the report. Here's the conclusion. A couple key things. Proactive security postures, collaboration, and sharing are 2 key things. So from a proactive security posture, emphasize the importance of adopting a proactive security posture, including continuous monitoring, threat intelligence, and regular security assessments.
No surprise there.
There's not.
Identify what's out there.
Yeah, and if I think about regular security assessments, right? Some people, the thought of having an external person come in to do an annual security maturity assessment, maybe using the NIST cybersecurity framework or the CIS critical security controls or ISO 27001. Pick your security framework; they're all good. But have someone come assess your environment and see where some of those gaps are. Maybe have an actual technical team come in and do a little bit of a penetration test to follow up that assessment to see where things really are strong and really can break. But remember, pen tests are only as good as the tester, and also like where they're focusing as well. But good to help find where you might have some weaknesses yourself by doing continuous assessments, regular assessments, and then working on some improvements there.
I concur. And possible future topic, AI penetration testing. What?
Wow.
We like penetration testing driven by AI.
We don't cover enough AI. Okay. That makes sense, right? AI to do all your penetration testing. Collaboration and sharing, another piece of the conclusion here. Encourage collaboration and information sharing within industries to stay ahead of emerging threats and improve overall cybersecurity resilience. There are a couple things. We've talked about some of these before. First of all, find a network of people that you trust and can share with. So if you're in security operations, find a group of security operations people. Maybe they're on Reddit. Maybe they're on a Discord. Maybe they meet up, face to face in your city once a month. Find your people, get to know them, and be able to learn who you can share information with and learn from one another.
Yep. Every major city has a DEF CON group or an ISSA group or an OWASP group.
You look at the B-sides and see who's part of that, and you can find these groups and become a part of them.
I would also say, Sean, that like even if you're in a highly regulated industry, leverage your membership to ISACs. Like those have been around for a while, but the amount of folks that actually participate on those, it's pretty poor attendance.
It's small, yeah. So there's the financial ISAC, the healthcare ISAC, retail ISAC. There's many of them. I think there's a biotech ISAC that recently stood up as well.
For folks at home, those are membership only, have to be approved, closed, kind of cloistered groups that share this information freely. That again, they can be really helpful because it's trusted sharing within a network.
Yep. So those are just a few things. Also, if you have or can obtain like U.S. government clearance, you've got InfraGard, which is a collaboration between the FBI, the U.S. FBI, as well as industry. So working together to share information as well. So another group.
I'm an InfraGard member. I highly recommend anyone join your local InfraGard chapter.
Okay, so there's our conclusion. And to end the report, there were a couple calls to action. Stay informed, invest in security, and engage experts. So first...
Duh.
Stay informed. Regularly update knowledge on the latest threats and best practices. There's so many ways to do this. It's so easy. Just go on to your podcast, whatever you have for your podcast app on your phone, search cybersecurity. You'll find maybe a 5-minute podcast like the SANS Internet Storm Center podcast, 5 minutes, 5 days a week. Maybe you'll find the Risky Biz podcast, 1 hour once a week. Our podcast, our videos, like there's so many places where you can do this. If you prefer reading, CSO Online has news. There's many other locations. The sources I just mentioned have, web-based places as well to stay informed.
Yep.
Invest in security. Allocate adequate resources to cybersecurity to protect against evolving threats.
Good luck.
Thank you, because I was wondering what you would say to that, Garrett. Because my thought was like, first of all, this one's very difficult. You got to go convince the C-level the importance of investing a lot of money. Security is not cheap in any way, shape, or form. I do think of things about how you can better get the thumbs up to give you budget to invest in security. If you can think about the story to show how you are helping protect the revenue of your company. So if your company generates money, if you sell something to or receive money to keep your company running, if you can put the story together of how your security investments will help protect the revenue of the company, you're going to get a lot of people paying a whole lot more attention. Maybe your security work is required to sell your product. So say you're a company who sells something and your customers want to know how secure you are. And it's possible that, your sales folks are saying, hey, we need these compliance things to sell our product, a SOC 2 or an ISO 27001, or we need these different types of policies written so our customers feel comfortable. You can now not just say revenue protection, you can now start to show how security is a part of revenue generation. You are helping salespeople close the deals faster to be able to sell more stuff now and to be a part of actually building the revenue of the company. Things to think about as you're trying to figure out, how do I get people to give me money to hire people and to buy the things I need for security? Those are a couple things to think of.
Well, to provide a little bit of a meta example, this Verizon Data Breach Investigations report is a great treasure trove of reasons and stats and use cases to talk about how investing in security actually does bolster your business objectives and helps protect that bottom line.
Great point. Every year when I update my PowerPoint slide decks, and I know at least 20% of my job is being a PowerPoint slide deck engineer, that's at least 20% of my job. When I update those, I bring in slides from this report, directly from this report, and I will be completely honest, I was in a meeting yesterday working with top-level executives at a company, trying to help influence them of specific areas to invest in cybersecurity. And I used pieces from this report that we're talking about right now in that conversation. And it was very helpful. They found it valuable that, one, I was knowledgeable, two, I could refer to things that brought it back to their industry specifically and real numbers that exist out there. Yep, good point. All right, last piece here, engage experts. Consider consulting with cybersecurity experts to enhance your organization's security posture. This is important. This is super important. Everyone in your company looks at you and just expects you to know everything. There is, from information security, information assurance, cybersecurity, physical security, cloud security, application security, endpoint security, MDR, EDR, vulnerability management, patch management. We could just go on and on and on. And and I know, you can't know all those things. So again, as you're investing in security, invest in other experts as well. Again, there's a lot of free expert networks out there. We already talked about, how you can connect with other people. But also, as you're thinking about investing, don't just think about, I'm going to bring in a vulnerability management tool and get it done. If you don't know vulnerability management well enough, maybe bring someone in to help you roll out a thoughtful approach to that.
That's right. And there are plenty of firms out there that offer, much like they have managed IT services, they have managed security services where they can come in, they offer a low cost, maybe even free consult to kind of see where you're at, baseline you, and then help you bolster your security presence. And Sean, I couldn't agree with you more. There are plenty of free resources to just talk about stuff out there. But just make sure that, you become okay with not being the expert of everything, because that type of fallacy, we'll call it, is what gets a lot of people in trouble, is I know everything and, I can't share my data with anyone else. Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. There
Great
we go.
Assessment.
That's the 2024 Verizon Data Breach Investigations Report, also known as the DBIR. Garrett, good conversation here. I'm looking at our schedule. We've been going. This show's, it's a hefty show today. I'm wondering, do we save some of our other topics for next time?
I think so.
Because I think we are there. Let's start to wrap this up. This has been this to me one of my favorite shows. Every year, going through the Verizon DBIR, I get a copy of it. I go sit in the corner like it's a good book with a cup of coffee and read through it. And I love talking about it. It's fantastic. Well, thank you everybody for listening and watching and following. I am Sean Valley. I'm the creator of the show and the music here on Cybersecurity Growth. You can find us at cybersecuritygrowth.com. You can find all of our shows at cybersecuritygrowth.com/blog. I'm available at all the social places under either at Sean Valley or at Cybersecurity Growth. If you like the show, please tell your friends. If you hate it, tell your adversaries. Please like and subscribe wherever you are at, and leave either a 5 stars or a thumbs up, maybe even a review saying, I don't know if I want to call it the DBIR or the Verizon Data Breach Investigations Report, but I did learn something that is going to help me in my cybersecurity career. Garrett, where can people find you?
Well, as anyone who's been listening to the show for a while knows, that I don't really do that much social media. So this weekend is Father's Day. So hopefully you can find me doing whatever the hell I want to do. As a proud father, I take parenthood very seriously, and we get one day to kind of be recognized. So I'll be just be doing whatever I want.
All right. By the grill with a sudsy pop in hand. Is where we will find Garrett this weekend. Fantastic.
Actually, I was asked what I wanted to do this weekend, and that was my response. I want to grill hot dogs and hamburgers and just kind of hang out.
See, there we go. We got it.
That's it.
This week we covered the 2024 Verizon Data Breach Investigations Report. We are live on Twitch every other week, usually. Fridays at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, 10:30 a.m. Pacific, and 6:30 p.m. GMT. And we're in your pod feeds and YouTube a few days later. I think we're going to take next week. Maybe we're going to take a couple weeks off. We're getting into some vacation time. So just pay attention to us on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on TikTok. We literally do use all those things to communicate. So pay attention. We'll keep you posted when we're back for the next show. Garrett, thanks for being here. And thanks everybody for watching.
Thanks so much for your time, everyone.
See you, everyone.